Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth and all his purity. And salutations to all you Akim pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going into the works of the Heavenly Father in these last days, which is in a form of prophecy, current events. Yahushua, matter of fact, let's go to that real quick. In Luke 21 and 24, it says, "And they shall fall by the edge of the sword." The "they" is speaking about the children of Israel, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We fell by the sword in 70 AD. And fast forward to slavery and the genocide of the so-called Native American Indians and Hispanics. We fell by the sword, as prophesied, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And that happened to us. We're the only people that were sold captive into all nations, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which proves that we're the Israelites and that the Bible is true. It says, "In Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles." And that's what we see. The land of Israel, the Holy Land, is being trodden down by Gentiles, claiming to be the chosen, claiming to be J-ish. You got the Arabs there, those Palestinians, fighting over a land that doesn't belong to any of them. That land belonged to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man, by right. The Most High gave every nation in the Bible their own land. That land belongs to us. All right? So this only happened to us, man. It says, "Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled." So the times of the Gentiles is being fulfilled. All right? What does that mean? That's basically saying these heathens, they got a short time to rule. Their rulership is temporary. This is Psalm 75, verse 6. "For promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. But Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another." That's right. That's why in history, we see the rise and fall of empires. Empire comes up, it goes down, another one takes over. Right? So the Most High, he's in total control of that. That's why when you read the book of Daniel, it describes history to a T. Secular history is in the Bible. It was pre-written. All right? When you read Daniel 2, matter of fact, this chapter 2, chapter 7, chapter 8, it describes history's empires from Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and fast forward to Rome 2.0, which is America. All right? So this is Daniel chapter 4, verse 17. "This matter is by the decree of the watchers." The watchers are the angels. It says, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of man." That's right. So the Most High, he's in total control. He got this whole thing on lock. There is nothing that happens outside of the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. That's why it's foolish for Esau to try to fight prophecy, because the Lord already dictated the future. Nothing could change that. Once the word of the Lord goes out, that's it. Right? So he setteth up over it the basest of men. Now, who's the basest of men? Let's go to Job. Job 30. So we got to find out who the basest of men is. This is Job chapter 30, verse 1. It says, "But now they that are younger than I have me in derision." This is speaking about the Edomites. That's what Job is going into. When it says they that are younger than I, that's because Esau is a young nation compared to us. Yes, our nations were born as twins, but in the spirit, Israel is older. All right. That's why we got the birthright. Even though Esau carnally was, the firstborn, but the firstborn in heaven is first and foremost the elect of Israel. And then, the rest of Israel. Israelites were the first spirits ever created. All right. So it says, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Yeah. So it says, oh, they have me in derision. Right. They got Jake out here bugged out. And at one point we was bugged out too. Being part of the world, not knowing this truth. We were in derision. We were drunk with the philosophies of this world. And this world is controlled by the so-called white man, the devil. All right. So they had us in derision. They had that veil of darkness over us. But through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim El Shah, we got the light. We could see through the darkness. All right. So now we know who we are, and now we know who he is. It says, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Yeah, because the so-called white man, he's a beast. He likes to commit bestiality because he's an animal himself. Look at the way they behave, like savages, man. Everywhere they touch, it's nothing but savagery that follows. Debauchery. All right. So Job said he wouldn't even let his dogs around him. Because what does the so-called white man do? He start molesting the dogs. There's many stories of that where, you'll have a white woman put peanut butter over her privates and have the dog lick it. Or you have an Edomite boy, going unto different animals, crocodiles, where a nigga end up getting snatched up by the crocodile trying to pop a male crocodile, man. These Edomites are bugged out. All right. That's why Job said he wouldn't even let his dog sleep with the so-called white man. It says, yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste. Yeah, because that's the former estate of the so-called white man. They were living in the wilderness, in the wild, in the Caucasus Mountains, as cavemen, Flintstones. And that wasn't no 100,000 years ago. This is recent history. In medieval times, the Dark Ages, you had the Moors, so-called black men, ruling Europe, all of Europe. While you had the so-called white man, they was in Europe too, but they was, in low positions, average positions. Not saying every so-called white man was suffering. You had so-called white people back then that was well off. You had our people, the Moors, that was friends with so-called white people, right? But for the most part, the bulk of them was not doing well. So they was in the caves. It says, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief. Yeah, if you look up the wild men of Europe, you will see, that this is recent history. And when you look it up, they make it seem like it's just a fairy tale, like just a story that's told. No, this is factual. There's artifacts showing the wild men and paintings. And they were all so-called white people, hairy so-called white people, man. Right? Show you a damn animal, man. If we leave the so-called white man to himself, he'll transform into a damn beast, man. I mean, he already is, so he's really only going back to his true nature. But he'll grow fur, he'll grow claws, fucking fangs and shit. That's a so-called white man. Nigga immune to all kinds of diseases. That's a damn beast, man. The Beast Man, right? Like the movie Planet of the Apes, and the older one, when they had to bring out the scroll on the so-called white man. And they said, beware the Beast Man, for he's the devil's pawn, Showing you right there, the so-called white man, the elites, they know that they're the wicked. They know they're the Edomites. But it says, they were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys and in the caves, and in the caves of the earth and in the rocks. Caucasus Mountains, Mount Seir / Petra. Same structure as Rome and Greece and America. Same people. The Bible says what? There is nothing new under the sun. Everything is recycled in this universe. Energy is recycled. Spirits are recycled. Empires are recycled. Right? People are recycled. So same people back then in Mount Seir, same people in Greece, Rome, the Caucasus Mountains, America, same people, man. Edomites. It says, among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. So the so-called white man at one point, he had lost speech. Didn't even know how to put sentences together. Them wild men, when they was over there in Europe, terrorizing, our communities, right? Attacking us and shit. They were braying. Ooh, only they could understand their language, man. Talking like animals. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. That's the so-called white man. Children of fools, children of base men. Look at the so-called white man's history. Look at their ancestors. Tell me that, those were high esteemed people. No, man. Look at all the founding fathers of America. They're all criminals, man. Murderers, child molesters, rapists. That's all they did, man. But they exalt them. They give them monuments. They teach you their history in school. Well, not the true history of the actual things that they did, but that's the history of the so-called white man. Look at Australia. When Australia was being established, the so-called white men that went there, those were criminals, man. Exile criminals, right? So that's their history. It says, and now am I their song, yea, I am their byword. That's right. And that's the curses. The curses said we will be a proverb and a byword. All right. So they make all these racist jokes, these racist songs. A lot of those songs that's embedded in America go back to racist songs. Like what's that shit? The ice cream truck song. That goes back to a racist song. Right? And many others. Right? So now we know the children of fools, the basis of man in Daniel 4 is describing it. And that's Esau. That's the so-called white man's history. Now let's go to Job 9:24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? So who has the power over the earth? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right. So he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Who are the judges in the Bible? The ultimate judges, the ultimate judge being the Most High, Yahweh, and then his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai. And then under them is the 144,000 and the 1/3, the angels, and Israel in general, man. Those are the judges. So how did they cover the faces of the judges? They put a veil over our eyes by destroying our images. They took the image of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, and turned him to a devil. Turned him into a so-called white man. All right? So that's how he was able to deceive us. Because of that, our people worship the so-called white man. They don't think he can do anything wrong. Right? It says, if not, where and who is he? So if the so-called white man isn't the wicked, then who else is it? Malachi 1:4. It says, matter of fact, I'm start at 2. It says, I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? That's our people. They They see the way that we being treated, the things we go through as a nation, and they don't think that the Most High could love them, because in their minds is they're saying, what kind of God would do this to people he loves? You know? Or if God exists, then why do these things happen? Right? It says, was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I love Jacob. Yeah, so here it is. Esau, the so-called white man, their forefather, Esau, and our forefather, Jacob, were born twins. Esau came out first. Jacob came out second. The blessing was given to Jacob. You know, and it was by promise. All right. It wasn't by works like the scriptures say. All right. So the Lord said, was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I love Jacob and I hated Esau. So the Most High has a people he loves and a people he hates. All right. That's not enough. There's nothing wrong with that, man. People act like they don't hate people. Right. They could sit here and say, you know, they hate, you know, pedophiles, and you hate this kind of person. You don't like these type of people. But when the Most High says he doesn't like people, all of a sudden everybody want to get emotional. Do we not get our attributes from the Most High? Was not men made in the image of the Most High and the powers? So those attributes that we have, we get it from him. So the Most High, he hates too. And the ones he hates is the so-called white man. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. That's right. Look at Mount Seir. It's a wilderness. And America is about to be turned into a wilderness by the way of thermonuclear destruction. That's why it says in Isaiah 34 that is nothing going to be dwelling here but desert creatures and dragons and owls and things of that nature, because it's going to be a complete wasteland. Verse 4, whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. And that's what they did. You know, at one point when they lost their Roman Empire and their minds, they made this vow that they would come back. You know, they said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Because throughout history, you've always had these different elites amongst these different nations. So same thing in Greece and Rome. You had different heads that knew their forefather was Esau, Edom, right? So they said, we will return and build the desolate places. The desolate places is America and Europe, but mainly America. Because I think Ezekiel 38, when it's going into how Gog, which is Russia, how Gog is going to come up against America. It says how they're going to come into the land, the places that are the desolate places that are now inhabited. So in the spirit, America's already destroyed. It just has to play out in the physical, right? So it says, thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. So they built all these different cities. You got New York City, Chicago. You got thousands of cities that they built off our backs, that we built, really, that so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans built off of our blood. All that money that funded the Industrial Revolution, that made all these nations great, came from us. So they built, but the Lord said he's going to throw down. And they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. So the Most High has hatred against the so-called white man for eternity. Even after the so-called white man is gone, the Lord is still going to hate his ass, man. You know how niggas do, you know, wicked shit where they'll kill a op and then go to his grave and disrespect them? And the kingdom, man, we steady going to disrespect Esau, man, after he's gone. Being called an Edomite is going to be an insult in the kingdom. It's like calling somebody a faggot, you know? But, okay, that's it on that. Now let's go to the book of Lamentations, right? Because we read in Daniel how the Most High basically give power to different nations. And we read in Luke how that Yahushua told the different sons, and then he said, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So this is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 21. It says, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. That's right. So the Lord said, rejoice and be glad, you so-called white people. And we've been telling you that, starting with the apostles, for years. Live it up, max out your credit cards, do your drugs, do what you got to do, because your time is short. So from back then till now, a lot of them are seeing it. You know, those maggots, right? Those trumpets, the right wing, you know, they're seeing that power, leaving. They see that grip loosening. So this is why they're accusing Jacob, their brother, the accuser of our brethren, accusing us for their downfall, right? They're going to need somebody to blame for them taking the L. Esau can't take no L in peace, man, right? Somebody gotta be blamed, and that's going to be Jacob, man. They're going to blame niggas for the collapse of America. They're going to blame those programs. They're already doing it, you know? They're going to even blame World War III on us, the prophets, man. Right? So the Lord said, rejoice. It says, the cup shall pass through unto thee. What's that cup? The cup of slavery, the cup of affliction. All right? That's what the Lord is going to pass to you. The Lord said he will put all the curses he put on us upon our enemies. So all the things that happen to us is going to happen to y'all times 1,000, because it's not just the same things that we suffered. You're going to suffer worse. Why? Because we're the Lord's chosen people. And the Lord said, he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of my eye. So you heathens, you got a lot to pay for, man. So it says, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So the punishment of our iniquity is accomplished. It's over. That's it. This is the last captivity, man. The Lord said he will no more carry us away into captivity. This is it. This is the times of the Gentiles being fulfilled. It would end with Esau. Esau's the end of the world, right? So we here. This is why all of this is happening all over the world. People right now, they're seeing it, man. Like, I like to go read comments, see what people are saying online too. And people are seeing it, man. They're saying it's biblical. A lot of people are turning to the Bible, a lot of people are saying, I'm not religious. I don't believe the Bible, but this seemed like God, like those different type of comments. So the average individual could start to see that something is off. They're saying like they feel like they're in the last scene of a movie, not realizing what they're saying is biblical, man. We are living in a movie. This whole reality we live in is the thoughts of the Heavenly Father being made manifest. And the word, the script is the Bible. So this is why everything is going according to the Lord's word. You can't name any other books where you could point out the current events happening in the earth right now that never happened in history. No other books can do that, man. What book tell you about the mark of the beast, which we see happening now with the digital ID, the Neuralink? All of that eventually is going to lead to those implants, man. Right? The Bible foretold us of that, man. So the Lord, he's working. So real quick, let me go to Obadiah. This is Obadiah, verse 15. It says, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. So now we know this whole chapter, it's only one book, one chapter, is going into the destruction of the so-called white man. So verse 15 says the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. So showing you Esau is the end of the world, the end of an age, the age of the Gentiles being fulfilled. That's what Yahushua was talking about. The times of the Gentiles, the age of the Gentiles, right? So it says, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. So transatlantic slave trade, the trans-Saharan slave trade, all the previous atrocities done to us in the past 4,000 years, 5,000 years, is going to be paid for with interest. It says thy reward shall return upon thine own head. So the things you inflicted on us is going to return right back on you. And that's called justice. That balances things. Eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, foot for foot, hand for hand. That's how justice is served. Verse 16, for as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, we just read about the cup is going to be passed unto you, right? You drunk on the holy mountain. You give us affliction. You profited off our affliction. So shall all the heathen drink continually. So now it's time for y'all to suffer. The same way y'all look at so-called black people now in the ghetto is the same way we're going to look at y'all in the kingdom, man. As peasants, as vile, low creatures, man. As criminals. Criminals because you broke the law, statutes, and commandments of the Heavenly Father. You sin against the Lord and his people. So you're going to drink 1,000 years of slavery, man. Yea, they shall drink and they shall swallow down and they shall be as though they had not been. Yeah, because nobody's going to remember the Babylonians, the Persians. After a while, America's going to be forgotten about. We only going to read about it, you know? And then, you know, it's going to be no man's land. So you might be able to see it from far off, a big crater, a dark land, a desert wasteland. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's going to be. So they're going to be as though they had not been. But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. That's right. So the Lord is only going to save Israel. I don't see no, all nations there. It says Mount Zion, which is the elect, and there shall be holiness. Yeah, because the Lord is going to give his elect new bodies. And the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. And what's the possessions of the house of Jacob? All you nations. Psalms 2 and 8. The Lord said he's going to give all you heathens to us as an inheritance, man. And the uttermost parts of the earth for our possession. So we're going to inherit not only the earth, but the whole universe and everything in it, including you heathens. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. Yeah, because we're going to have spiritual power in the kingdom. New bodies. We're going to be gods. You want to talk about Superman. You want to talk about Goku. You want to talk about any fictional character combined is not going to have an inkling of our power. We're going to have the power to shred the universe, man. That's the type of power the Lord is going to give his men. So we're going to use that power to wipe you heathens out, man. Well, Slakia, just Esau, Edom, not the other nations. The so-called white man will be exterminated by fire after 1,000 years of slavery. It says, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord Yahweh Shemel shall have spoken it. So all you so-called white people, you're about to be wiped out, right? Not any remaining. That means exactly that. And that's just a spirit, man. I was about to go into Habakkuk and what is it? Sirach. I think Sirach 39, going into, the Most High using the different spirits, the Most High using prophecy and things of that nature, But hey, man, spirit is on Esau right now, because, hey, the tensions is high, the racial tensions. And we're about to get into a race war. That's actually talks, amongst the average individual, man. People never thought they'd be talking about shit like this. Race wars, civil war in America. But here it is, we've been saying it for years, starting with the apostles. Nobody took us serious, but now they're starting to consider, right? The scriptures say, when these things come to pass, then you're going to know a prophet have been among you. So they're starting to come to pass, and eventually the Lord is going to take away his prophets and bring the prophecies full-fledged. And that's when people go want to seek the word of the Lord, and they ain't going to find it. So Ezekiel 25:12, it says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shemashah power, because that Edom have dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and have greatly offended and revenged himself upon him. Edom, there you go again. Anywhere you read in the scriptures about Esau, Edom is something negative. So the Lord is calling your ass out, man. From thousands of years ago, the Lord was pointing at your ass, man. Because that Edom have dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance. House of Judah, so-called blacks, West Indians, Haitians. You took vengeance on us because as the Moors, we took your prized empire. Rome fell. You had the Holy Roman Empire, which was governed by the holy people, the Israelites, mainly the house of Judah, the so-called black man, right? And you wanted vengeance for that. So what did you do? You crawled out the caves. You saw how we got weakened by the Black Plague. You crept your way into different positions of power. And finally, when you got the ultimate power in the papacy under Pope Rodrigo Borgia, that's when, you started taking your vengeance, man. Start persecuting Jake all throughout Europe. You had a lot of Jews, like our people that knew they were Jews, not those people over there in the land of Israel. When you read those histories about the Renaissance, the time before the Renaissance or a little bit after, when you read about the persecution that happened to so-called Jewish people, those were so-called black people. Those were the black Jews that got exiled out of Spain, Portugal. They got sent to West Africa, to the island of St. Thomas. I think that's what it's called. Over there in West Africa. A lot of them got killed, actually enslaved in Europe and also sent by ships, So that's a lot of atrocities we can't even speak about. We can't even name them because a lot of it's been hidden. And they're trying to hide more and more of the history with this whole critical race theory, and then now Trump is in and now he's just removing Jake out of America, trying to, but it's impossible, because Jake is woven into the very fabric of America. We made America what it is. We make it what it is to this day. We're the salt of the earth. Our labor keeps this place running. Our spending money is what keeps these corporations getting all this capital. We're the entertainment. If you take us out of America, America will collapse right there and then, man. And they know that. But they want to act like we're, Jake is illegals. We got to deport them and do all that shit. And now look what's happening. The farming industry has collapsed. All industries are collapsing right now. Right? But this is the Lord setting these devils up for their own demise, man. So verse 13, it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Shemashah power, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom. And this is what's happening now. The Lord is stretching his hand upon you by sending the plagues, just like how he sent his hand on the Egyptians by sending plagues on their ass. So these things happening now, the wars happening, the earthquakes, the unnatural weather patterns and tornadoes and all that shit, all of this is going to lead into the destruction of America. This is the Lord adding the ingredients to the pot. And the ultimate cooking is going to be the missiles, man. So it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashar power, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom, and I will cut off men and beasts from it. Now, only thing that can do that is the missiles. Men and beasts. That means everything's getting wiped out. It says, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and day of Dedan shall fall by the sword. So all you heathens, man, got them Germans over there. They're going to get hit with missiles too. Difference between America and Europe is Europe won't be totally wiped out. America will. It says, and I will lay vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. So that ties up with Obadiah about them being turned into stubble, right? But before the stubble, we gotta get our vengeance, man. The stubble, that's the end of the vengeance. But before that, you still got 1,000 years of slavery to go. And that 1,000 years slavery is gonna feel like 10,000. It's gonna feel like an eternity, man. Because the Lord is gonna slow down the times. Yahweh Shah said, the Lord sped up the times, because if the Lord didn't speed up the times, there shall no flesh be saved. Look at what the so-called white man is doing. The whole earth is dying. Animals all over the world beaching themselves. Just committing suicide. Just like, fuck it, man. This goddamn devil got me fucked up. Crashing out, man. The whole world is in mourning under this devil, man. So this is why we need the judgment to come. And it is coming, man. So with that, I hope you were edified. I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth and all his purity. And salutations to all you Akim Bashin this word. Shalom.